Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in February. So in total I ended up reading 14 books, which is double what I read in January, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I did get sick at one point. I think like last week or last week I was really sick, so I just like stayed home all day and just like read. And there was like even one day where I read 2 books. Yeah, so that is one of the reasons why I've read so many books this month. But yeah, to give you guys some stats, I ended up reading 14 books and 4,776 pages. My top 3 moods were emotional, reflective, and dark. Most of the books were medium paced, and most of the books were between 300 to 499 pages. There were no books that were above 500 pages, and every book was fiction. Top 3 genres were contemporary, literary, and romance. And yeah, 3 digital books and 11 physical books. My average rating was 3.62, which is quite low for me, because I usually rate books pretty generously, I think. And yeah, 3.62 is quite low for me. But overall, a good, a positive rating. So that's good. And here are all like the days, my reading for each day of February. And as you can see, 24th, I think. Yeah, 24th is the day I read 2 books, because yeah, I was sick. And yeah, you can see how it like the higher path is like me getting sick and then being the most sick and then getting fine again. And yeah, so my reading, you can tell when I was sick because of my reading. Anyways, yeah, so in terms of books, I'll just show you guys all the books that I read and talk about them. The first one was One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. This I think is like my 4th or 5th book by Olivia Blake. I've read the Atlas 6. I haven't read the 2nd and 3rd book yet, but I've read the first one, and I've read the one that was not published by Tor. So like the one that was the version before it was published by Tor. So I need to reread it to see which changes were made in the book. And yeah, that's why I haven't continued the series yet, because I need to reread the first book. But yeah, One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. This was really good. This was really good. Very, the whole witches and like it's a, what's it called? It's a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, but with witches, and it's like magical realism, because like it's set in New York City, and like people don't know witches exist, but they're like living amongst them, and like there's 2 families that hate each other, and like this rivalry and siblings and like forbidden love, and like yeah, a lot of things. The way it's written, the way it's told is really nice. I love the banter between the characters, like yeah, and like artwork is so pretty, and like yeah, this was one of, for me, Olivia Blake's always been kind of a hit or miss. Like I loved Atlas 6, but then I read what's it called, Alone in the Ether with You, which I didn't like as much, and like the way people keep hyping it up, I didn't feel any of that, so I was a little disappointed. But then I read Masters of Death, which was similar way. Like I think it's just the writing style that Olivia Blake has in those books. But yeah, I was really confused most of the book of Masters of Death, but then I really enjoyed it once it all started making sense. And so that one was really good for me too, and this was also really good for me. And also My Mechanical Romance, which is also written by the author and under another name for her YA books, which I also really loved. So yeah, a hit and miss, but this was definitely a hit, and I would highly recommend it. Yeah, really good. So yeah, okay. I also read Evil Eye by Etta Frum. I've talked about Etha From quite a lot on Bookstagram and on Booktube, I think. My favorite book of 2022, like one of my top fives, was her debut book, A Woman Is No Man. So yeah, I had to read her new book, obviously, and I loved this one as well. Not as much as the other one, but this was really, really good as well. And mother-daughter relationships, and like being an immigrant, or like growing up as a daughter of an immigrant, and like past traumas, yeah, growing up in an immigrant family, and like, yeah, growing up as the daughter of an immigrant family, and like, yeah, just inner child healing, and like, yeah, just a lot. I really enjoyed it. There were some really good lines and like discussions and like just dialogues, and like just very beautifully written. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. And then after this, I found out that the author had also written a short story which is available on Kindle Prime, and so I ended up reading that. It's called Mother Country by Etha From, and that was quite similar to this one. I felt like it was just a short story version of this, kind of, because it had similar storylines, similar characters, similar circumstances and stuff. There's just like some things that were different. So yeah, I would say just read this, or like if you want a short story instead, read that. But like I would recommend this obviously because it's a fully formed story, and like, yeah, there's the way things are dealt in this and like talked about in this is really good. So yeah, Evil Eye by Etha From. I also read a graphic novel after a really long time, Hockey Girl Loves Drummer Boy by Faith Ellen Hicks. This was really cute, really fun. I mean, obviously the topic was not, it wasn't very light-hearted and stuff, because obviously they're talking about like, anger management and like being, I don't know, like how to, not let other people's words affect you to the extreme circumstances and stuff like that. But I love the artwork in this, and just the characters were cute, and like the relationship was cute, and like just, yeah, I had a fun time reading it. I read it in one go, and yeah, it was really cute. So yeah, Hockey Girl Loves Drummer Boy. I've also read the authors Friends with Boys and Pumpkinheads, and both are also really fun, so I would recommend those as well. Okay, one of the crazy books I read this month was Girl in White Cotton by Avni Doshi. This was released as Burnt Sugar, like the title Burnt Sugar, in the UK, so check it out. This is an insane book. This also had mother-daughter relationships, and like but like it just kept getting crazier and crazier, and like in the sense, I don't even know how to explain it, like so like it opens with the daughter finding out that her mom has possibly has Alzheimer's, because she's starting to forget things. And so like it has alternating timelines where we go to the past to see how she grew up with her mom, and like how to the present to see how the roles are reversed, and now she's taking care of her mother, and like things come up from the past and the present and everything. And like, yeah, it just gets crazier and crazier, and like they're both kind of terrible and have been terrible to each other. But yeah, insane book. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, I think this was the last book I read in February. But yeah, I if you watched my International Women's Month book recommendations, you've already heard me talk about this, but I really want you guys to listen to the first line of this book, because it's so insane that like made me want to pick this up immediately. So it says, I would be lying if I said my mother's misery has never given me pleasure. So, yeah. Girl in White Cotton by Avni Doshi. Crazy book. Go read it. Okay. So, I think I mentioned this in the January wrap-up as well, but I've started, for this year, I'm trying to participate in the Read Agatha Christie 2024 challenge. So I'm trying to read one Agatha Christie every month. And so the first month I read And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. And this month I read Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. I haven't watched the movie yet. I will watch it at some point. But I read this and it was really good. I think for me, I'm more of the kind where I need mysteries that make me scared, even though I don't like being scared. Like, for some reason, like while I'm in the moment, like I like, reading something that scares me, I guess. So this did not scare me at all. And like, but also like I couldn't guess who it was until like a later point. So I think it was good in that aspect. But yeah, I don't know, like I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it was good. I feel like the movie is going to be, I don't know how the movie is going to be, but I'm hoping it'll be better in like making me feel more, yeah. I think for me the issue was that the reasoning for the murder, or like, just the premise of it was not something that I love or like care about. Yeah, I can't really talk about it without giving spoilers really, but yeah, the reasoning and like the ending also just not something that I agree with, or like, yeah. So it was still fun and I still enjoyed trying to figure out who did it and like what happened and like things like that and how they did it, kind of. So yeah, the reveal was good, but the story, the premise of it was not something I wanted to read about. So Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. Another book I read was called Really Good Actually by Monica Heisey. This was interesting. I honestly, I didn't buy this book myself. My sister bought it and she enjoyed it, so I ended up reading it too. And it was interesting. It was like the first half was very funny and relatable and like, yeah. But then the second half, the main character just kind of got very suffering. Like, it was just frustrating to see, the way she was, the things she was doing, or like the way she was going on, kind of. And like, I think that is the point of the book though, because like obviously she is going through a hard time. She's just gotten divorced and like literally has only dated this guy for like all her 20s, and now she's divorced and like literally less than 2 years of marriage and stuff. But yeah, obviously she's going through a hard time, and like I think that was the point of the story, her becoming insufferable and all that. But yeah, there were some points in it that I didn't agree with, and like, yeah, second half it was just like, I don't know, she wasn't very likable, and yeah, but very funny, and like the humor in the first half was really good, so I enjoyed it still. But yeah, I'm not my kind of book, I feel like. I've realized, yeah, I mean, I didn't even buy it, so yeah. Okay, another book that I have realized was not my kind of book was Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. This I picked up because everybody was talking about it on Bookstagram, and like when I even talked about the fact that I was reading it, people were like, oh my god, you're gonna love it and it's so good. I did not love it. This was really hard to get through. One of the reasons being how small the font is. Like, just make a bigger book. Yeah, I don't know. It was just annoying me, the small font, and so I switched to audiobook, and it still wasn't, it wasn't something like, I kept pushing it off and kept reading other books while reading this. But I obviously persevered and finished it because this is my book club's book this month. But yeah, unlikable characters. Yeah, it's kind of like two broken people trying to fix each other, or like trying to, I don't even know how to explain it. And just like life in New York, and like what it's like in your 20s, and like, I don't know. Yeah, kind of like also about how the decisions you make, or like the choices you make, lead, like, can change your life and stuff. um yeah, not my kind of book. So yeah, had some really good lines though, some really good dialogues and stuff. But yeah, Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. um in terms of fantasy, kind of, I read another book about witches called The Near Witch by V.E. Schwab. This was V.E. Schwab's her debut novel, but also like the first one that was published, not the first one she wrote. She's written many before, according to her, introduction in this book. But this was the first one that, she published, and it was republished by Tor, by Titan Books. And yeah, so I obviously had to read it because I love V.E. Schwab and I love all her books. And this was also really fun. This was a lot more YA than her other books. I think all the other ones that I've read are pretty adult. This one was pretty YA, and like, for me, I could tell that this is like, I don't know, like, for me, it was interesting to see her writing in this and then see her writing in her other books. And it was nice to see how much it has evolved and changed for the better. And like, that was one part that I found interesting, because the writing in this was very different than the other ones. But I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the way it was written, and like the lyrical aspect of it, and like, yeah, just like use of sounds and onomatopoeia, and like, yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, kind of gave me like a little bit of Vampire Diaries vibes, but only the past, when it was like Catherine, Damon, and Stefan, like those, like that kind of vibe, not the present part of Vampire Diaries, the old part. But also there's no vampires, and this is just witches. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Yeah, The Near Witch by V.E. Schwab. Another fantasy I read this month was Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. This was a very short story. It's like 120 pages, I think, or something like that. Really short story about fairies, and like, this is kind of like a retelling of what's it called? Sleeping Beauty. It's a Sleeping Beauty retelling, subversion, and like, did I read this month? Yeah, I did. Okay. Yeah, so fairies and like knights and like princes locked up in a tower, Sleeping Beauty, all that stuff, but like really atmospheric, really well written, and like, yeah, it's a really short story, but I really enjoyed it, and ended up also buying another book by this author because I liked the writing style. So I'm excited to read that. But yeah, if you're looking for a short, tiny book about fairies and knights and Sleeping Beauty, but like subverted Sleeping Beauty, then I highly recommend this one. Yeah, I also read 3 ebooks, and one I mentioned already, Mother Country by Etta Frum. 2 others that I read were arcs from NetGalley. The first one was The Catch by Amy Lee. This was the 3rd book in the Influencer series. The first one being Set on You, and then the second one being X's and O's. I read both of those like when they came out and stuff. So I was really excited for The Catch because I'd read the first chapter, or like a little bit of it, the snippet that was at the back of X's and O's. So I was really excited for this one. But for me, it didn't live up to the hype. I think the first one was good, and then it just slowly just kept getting downhill for me. I don't know what it was about it. Yeah. So for me, the issue, I loved the side characters in it, and like I love the setting, I love Nana and like all of that, and like the main characters were good when they were on their own, or like when they were with other characters, but with each other, I just don't understand. Like, why were they so rude to each other the entire time in the beginning for no reason whatsoever? Like, it made no sense to me. There were so many unnecessary arguments, and like just to make the enemies part happen, I guess. But like it was so unnecessary, and so yeah, and like the whole flip as soon as they turned to lovers, like just did not make sense to me. I just think there was no real conflict in the beginning, and just to make it happen, they were just rude to each other and just didn't make me want to read about them anymore. Because if they're like that to strangers or people they just met, like why would I want to read about them? Yeah, both MCs were pretty mean to each other the entire time, and then somehow they ended up falling in love in 2 weeks time, and decide to like move countries for each other or whatever. Yeah, not my kind of book. So I mean, the premise and all was so good, it just wasn't executed well, which really annoyed me. But because of the setting and the way the Korakov was described and everything, I flew through the first like 30% of the book, but then later on it was just like reading their interactions just made me not want to read it anymore, kind of. So yeah, not the best. And then the other arc that I read was Right on Cue by Fallon Ballard. I've read this author's 2 previous books called, so I've read Lease on Love and Just My Type, and I enjoyed both of them a lot. And this one was also like, I enjoyed it, but not as much as the others. Like Lease on Love still I think is like my favorite out of all of them, and then it's Just My Type, and then this one. So yeah, I enjoyed it, but not as much as the others. Yeah. One of the reasons I enjoyed this one though was also because of the mother-daughter relationship in it. Like, just sometimes characters can have good relationships with their families, and that's how this one was. So I really enjoyed reading about that. And like, even though we only got her father's perspective and like her father-daughter relationship only through her memories, like it was still so nice and heartwarming to see that kind of relationship in the book, and reading about such a healthy family relationship, I guess. So yeah, that was really nice. I love the setting also, and how they're like shooting a small town romance in the book, and reading about actors and like the film industry and stuff. I always love that, so it was really nice to read about in this. I think my only issue with this one was the unnecessary third act breakup. Like, why? Just stop putting them there. Like, if there's an actual valid reason, then sure, okay, I get it. But if it's unnecessary, just don't. Just don't. Yeah. So the third act was one of my main issues. The other one was the friendship between the main character and the director friend that she had. I don't know, like, what was up with that. Like, I didn't understand that friendship, and like, it just seemed like she was written in, I don't know, it just didn't work for me. Because like, the way she was treating her, and like how, I can't even remember how it was, but like, it just didn't feel right, and like, didn't feel like a friendship to me. So yeah, so it didn't really, this is what I wrote, it didn't feel like they were friends at all when they were on set, and only felt like it in the parts of the book that when they were in LA. So like, in the beginning of the book and at the end, that's the only time I felt they were actually friends, because like, there were no actual nice scenes between them when they were on set. So it just felt like unnecessary, but also like as if she's just there for her when, like, I don't know how to explain it, but I didn't enjoy reading that, if that makes sense. This one was not as enjoyable as the others for me, but I really like this author's writing style, and I think it's really funny, and like, the banter is really good. So I'm excited to read whatever else the author writes in the future. So yeah. And then the last book, my favorite book of February, that I read in one sitting, and also that day when I read two books, one of them was this one. So, Interior Chinatown by Charles Yu. This book, yeah, it blew my expectations out of the water. Like, it was so good, and I loved it so much, and it exceeded my expectations so much, and like, I just wasn't expecting to love this as much as I did. And like, yeah, I'm so glad I read it, even though, you know, I was kind of hesitating to buy this when I was at the bookstore, because I did love the, you know, synopsis and the fact that it's in screenwriting format. And yeah, so I did enjoy that. And like, but I had not heard about this from anyone recently, or like, I haven't spoken to anyone, you know, about this book. So, but I do remember seeing this on Bookstagram like in 2020. So like, because of that, I was like, maybe it is good, and maybe I should just try it anyway. And literally, it's so good. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but like, yeah, it's like, there's two parts to it, but like, it's hard to know when they are on screen and when they're off screen. So it's about this main character, Willis, and like, how he's always playing like a generic Asian man in, you know, movies and stuff, and like, just the discussions about being Asian in America, and like, especially being Asian in the film industry in Hollywood. And like, just, it's so well done. And like, yeah, just comparing how it is to be an Asian actor in the film industry and how it is to be an Asian person in America. And like, yeah, it's so well done, and some of the lines are so insane and so good. Like, if you need any convincing for this, you should go check out the annotations that I have posted on Instagram. But yeah, really, really, really good. One of my favorite books for sure. Yeah, highly, highly, highly recommend. So yeah, okay, anyways, that was all the books that I read in February. and I'm excited to see what I end up reading in March. I'm kind of maybe going back into a slump. Not sure yet. It's just I'm going back into watching K-dramas a lot recently. So yeah, so reading time is going down and K-drama time is going up. So because of that, I might not read as much in March, but I'm excited to see what I end up reading. Yeah, so that's about it for this video. These are some of the books that I read in February. Yeah, have you, let me know if you've read any of these or what your favorite book in February was. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.